Welcome to Watch and Code Office Hours. This is session number 57. So the point of these office hours is just to answer your questions on Watch and Code material. So if you have anything that you're stuck on, this is the place to ask. So if you're watching on the YouTube live stream, the best way to ask a question is to call in, like you see the students have below. And so you can get the call-in link by going into the Google Doc in the YouTube description, and you'll get to this document, and here's the call-in link. So if you want to call in and ask a question, you definitely want to join the Hangout. Otherwise, I'll probably miss your question and won't get to you. So the other thing is join the Facebook group to get more info about upcoming sessions in case there's schedule changes and just other types of information. That's the place you want to go. So there's also a link to that Facebook group. So join that if you haven't already. And that's it for the logistics for today. Student of the week is Michelle. So Michelle published an interview, did an interview with me for a publication called The New Stack. So it's written by Michelle, and it's an interesting article if you want to get a closer look at like Watch and Code, the philosophy of how the curriculum is made and that type of thing. It's a pretty interesting read. It's not a technical article. It's more about how I guess like what Watch and Code is for, like the purpose and how it differs from a lot of other companies. So that might be worth checking out. And the public service announcement is really linked to something that is a main theme in the article, which is focus on the boring stuff. I know that in this age, there are a lot of different things pulling you into many different directions. And there is a very strong desire and tendency to want to learn new stuff, new shiny things. And what I want to remind you just is you should focus on the boring stuff, the stuff that you don't want to learn. And I kind of talk about this in the article. Let me try to find this section. And it really aligns with like what I was saying in this article here. Watch and Code is about the core skills that all great developers have. And these are the things that are incredibly important but sound boring and forgettable. And they're never things that if I asked a beginner, it's not on the things that they want to know, but they are reading code, consistency and style, debugging, refactoring, testing, stuff like that. Not React or Node or Angular or functional programming and so on. So just a reminder to focus on those core things. And then I think this was an interesting thing that came from it, which is that if I could distill Watch and Code to one skill, and this is very, very much for the more advanced content, not practical JavaScript, but the main skill that you learn at Watch and Code, if you continue past the free course, is the ability to take any code and rip it apart. So, and again, the most important thing about that is one of those boring skills, which is reading code. So just a reminder, and definitely check out this article when you get a chance. New stuff. So we have Accounting.js 18 was released, and this one is on regular expressions. So let me pull that description up. All the way at the bottom. Yeah, so regular expressions are a tool that you use to search for patterns and strings. And this video is a very gentle introduction to the topic, and you'll learn about regular expressions while you grade the strength of different passwords. So we look at some really bad password requirements in an article titled The World's Worst Password Requirements List, and we try to create a better criteria for grading passwords, and then we use regular expressions to actually help us do that grading. So yeah, that's new stuff. I worked pretty hard on this. I think it's a tricky topic to teach, so it took a little bit more time than I thought. And we'll continue to get even more advanced. So the next video will go even deeper into regular expressions and really go into kind of advanced territory that most people that even know about regular expressions don't really know very well. So that's the new stuff for this week. And that's it for me. So the rest of the time is just for you, whatever open questions you have. Okay, so I think Matthew is first. Matt, are you there?
Oh, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Did you have a question?
Oh, I was calling in. I don't think I have a very concise one right now. I was calling in. If I don't have a question right now, should I instead go to the live stream?
No, we're not at capacity right now, so you can just hang out
Okay,
here.
cool.
Do you have any general questions or things you're
Um,
wondering about?
oh, okay. I mean, first of all, I'm really glad I recently found this course. And I feel like even just the last few, installments have been teaching me a lot. I'm also gonna be starting a boot camp, like soon-ish, and I was wondering, like, I feel as if like this course really teaches everything, or like a lot of what I want to know, but for like professional reasons, I'm going to a boot camp. I was wondering whether you had any advice on like your the way you teach is very like focused, but then if I'm going to a boot camp and I'm splitting my attention, I was just wondering whether you had any thoughts on that.
I would recommend, I mean, I think the reason people go to boot camps is to get a job, right? There's because um, universally the learning experience, if you talk to a lot of students, is not like optimal because it's a lot of stuff crammed in. Um,
Yeah.
I would try see if you like you may not need to go,
Oh, okay.
right? Like do you really need to go?
I feel like I came into this internship with this company and then I had like very little coding experience and I'm still like just trying to learn. And they were like, yeah, we really want to take you on, but like we're a startup and like we can't like like unless we can like prove to investors that like you're worth it. If you like, and they're like, yeah, obviously you have holes in your learning. And so they're like, yeah, one solution is to like go to a boot camp. And I was like, okay, sure. And then I found this. And so I was kind of studying this as well. Um, so yeah, I guess that's where I'm at.
Why don't you go talk to them and explain like the progress you've made? So I think the key thing to point out now is when you go talk to this company or others is not that you know everything that you need to know. That's not true, and I don't think that'll ever be true. Like I don't think it's true for me
Hmm.
either. But it's to show them your progress that you've made, and just see what they think. I think they'll
Okay.
probably be pretty impressed by it, and just I mean, if that's your goal, you might as well do like a progress check with them right now. I'd
Okay.
recommend doing that.
I appreciate the advice. Thank you.
Um, so yeah, and then you can reevaluate what you want to do. But
Cool.
if that's
Awesome.
your ultimate goal, because I mean, watching code, there are a lot of students that have done boot camps and have already graduated, and there are a lot of students that are already working as developers. And I really um, I think boot camps are generally um, it's positive, but definitely not required, right? And
I
so I
see.
think a lot of people have that thinking that like they have to do it, but you really don't. Like I didn't do one, and a lot of people that got jobs didn't do one, and so it's definitely not required. So if you have that assumption that it's required, then you should really erase that assumption and ask, do I need it?
Okay.
Because you may not. I think the people that it's super useful for. Uh, so there's a type of student. I actually talk about this in the article that I always tell them to go to boot camps because I don't think they would be a very good fit for Watch and Code, for example. Uh,
Hmm.
but I don't see that you fit into this category necessarily. Is people that really need to be in a physical place. Otherwise, they can't, like they will not do the work, right?
I see.
There are some students like that, and that's really a personal thing. Like, you know, if that's you, and it doesn't necessarily mean like, for example, a lot of these people were really good students, right? And they kind of but in normal school, but then once they're on their own, they really struggle with motivation and stuff. And like they just like being around people, and that's really important to them. If that's for students like that, I think it's a really good thing. If you're more on the more independent side, I think you know, you should seriously question whether whether it's the right, it's worth it.
Okay.
Right.
If whatever, like, given the, if I do for whatever reason end up doing it, would be even some, like, these two like things together are even compatible, or like whether I'd be able to fit it. I would be doing like a part-time one.
Yeah, I think if you're doing a part-time one, you absolutely can. Like the watch and code stuff is not, it's not meant to like be full-time and take up all your time and just drown you and stuff. It's like very focused topics and not, right. I mean, you know that. So, you know, even if you spend like 2 hours a week on watching code, I think that's more, you know, a lot of value just from that, or even
I agree.
or even 1 hour a week, right? So you don't need to, it in a lot of ways it's the opposite of a boot camp. Right. It fits into your whatever situation you have. So yeah, there are people doing both, and I think that's fine. I think yeah, I think a lot of people have this question. It's really just what you feel is best.
I see.
Right. I
All
think
right.
there are a
Thank
lot
you.
of,
I appreciate the answer.
yeah. You're welcome. Um, let's go to, well, what is the bootcamp you're thinking of going to?
So there's one that's done by an extension program off of UC Berkeley, and I'm choosing that one because the alternative was Dev Bootcamp, which is the other one that I got into, and I just figured like learning the Ruby and like Ruby on Rails stack would kind of not be great for what I want to do. And so, and plus the Berkeley one is like part-time, which is better because I'm trying to learn like 3D graphics on the web as well as like just the stack. So it's hard to like, script is definitely something I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other things you can just try it out and see if you like it. And then,
yeah, that's true.
I really don't know. Yeah, just see if you like it. It's almost like thing I say at the end of Practical JavaScript, like if you like it, then continue. If you don't, then just stop. It's like, and the same thing. Same. You should use the same guideline for other stuff you do, right? If you feel like it's not valuable, then just stop. If you feel like it is, just keep going. It sounds so stupid, like so dumb, it shouldn't even be said, but I think more people need, I think kind of shockingly, people don't ask that question.
Yeah.
Right. What they instead think about is, oh, my friend said this is good, right? Or like, or I paid the money already, you know, or like the almost anything but the actual question that you need to answer like defines what you do. And I find that to be the common scenario. And so that's why I, you know, in Practical JavaScript at the end, I had this like such a common sense, stupid question. But yeah, not enough people. If more people ask that, then I wouldn't have to say it. Right. Okay, cool. Well, good luck with everything. And
thanks.
And yeah. All right. So next, I'll go to, I think is it Srinath? You there? Srinath? Okay, then I'll come back to you. So Srinath. All right, just come back to you. I think Eddie was next. Eddie?
Okay. I was gonna ask about prototypes. So this is a lot over the weekends I was kind of working on it and just reviewing it over and over. Uh, it's I can't really put it down to a concise question, but it's more about making these observations and not making sense what to do with them. That's how I feel about it. So okay, like at minute 17 minutes of part 9, you said you can disregard prototypes and it can work fine without it with redundancy by repeating.
Yeah.
There is communication value in distinguishing the unique and shared properties clearly.
Wait, can you speak a little? You're speaking really fast. Can you slow down a little bit?
Okay. You can disregard prototypes and it can work fine without it with redundancy by repeating the methods in the new objects, right?
Right.
So constructors do that, right? The constructor when you
right. If you don't use prototypes,
yeah,
constructors will respect prototypes if you modify the prototype property on the constructor. Remember?
like the this dot. I'm thinking about this dot methods. Those ones. Like once it's created, right? If you change the constructor afterwards, it won't reflect that change if you change it afterwards, the constructor.
It's better to show an example. I think if you can show an example, you could just show the one from the video too.
Okay.
So wait, is it counting JS9? Is that right?
Yeah, that's a counting JS9.
All right, let me pull it up because I forget to.
Because you said there is communication value in distinguishing unique and shared properties.
Yeah. So remember. So maybe I should share my screen and that will make things easier.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's already easier.
All right. So give me 1 second. Yeah. So I guess generally, so like prototypes are pretty generally confusing topic for most people, though I don't think they're confusing. I find that, and Eddie, I don't know if this is the case for you, but I think a lot of times I think what makes it difficult is students like really overthink things, and it's like really they read way more into it than there is, and they assume it's like super complicated when it's not.
Like I think I get it, but I'm giving a lot of edge cases in my mind.
Right. Yeah. So you probably get it, and it's Eddie. Knowing you, I think you understand it, and you're just overthinking it. But let me just go through a couple of the examples and just tell me when you feel like you're going to confirm your understanding, because you were kind of talking about something like this, right?
And you have a second one maybe. Which...
Right. So let's start with one first. So let's start with dog, and then we'll do dog. We'll do another dog constructor. Dog with prototype, so you can differentiate. Is that all right? Yeah. And they both kind of do the same thing. They take in a name argument and set name on a newly created object. However, dog with prototype dot prototype dot.
You have a constructed it though, right?
Yeah, I need to redefine dog. So so there's a method on dog with prototype. Objects created with dog with prototype, and it just logs fetch or something.
Versus doing it internally, right?
Second. So let me redo this. So you can see everything at once.
Yeah, I was comparing this on my console too.
So is this kind of the relevant example?
Yeah, more more or less. I was doing that.
All right, so let me see if I've missed anything. Okay, so here we have a very simple constructor. It's used to construct objects, and you use it with a new keyword. When you use it, the new object will have a name property that's assigned to whatever you pass in, and then it'll also have a fetch method that console logs fetch. So this is simple dog, or yeah, just the plain dog constructor. In this second example, we have something that works very similarly, but it looks quite different. We have a different constructor name. So it's dog with prototype because we're going to use prototypes. And the name part is the same. So this part is exactly the same as the simple dog above. The difference is instead of assigning fetch on this, instead of having second line for this dot fetch equals this function, we've attached fetch to the constructor's prototype object. And so we just put it in a different place. So
but it's functionally a little bit different, right? It will come with the same result in this case. But for example,
well, so the difference is that when you create a dog with the first constructor, every single dog instance will have a different fetch function. Like it's going to create this fetch function for every single dog. Whereas if you create a dog with this constructor that I've highlighted, they all share the same fetch method. Like it is literally the same one. So
in the second one, you had to reference it, right?
Well, so let me show you the functional difference. So if you have simple dog equals new dog Eddie, actually I would be simple dog, you'd be the complicated dog.
The simple dog.
And the complicated dog is new dog with prototype Eddie. So let me also make another simple dog of our simple dog 2. And let's say that's Matt. New dog. Matt. And let's make another complicated dog. So if our complicated dog 2 will be Jason. The thing I want to point out is that simple dog dot fetch, if you try to compare it to simple dog 2 dot fetch, it's different. I mean, it's functionally the same. Like they both do the same thing, but they are two different functions. So they both like work the same, but they're actually two different functions, because each time you create the dog, then this new function is going to be created. So that's why they're not equal to each other.
The case I was actually thinking about is more like server and client. So if you change the constructor function after the client already created with that constructor, it'll still use the original one you constructed with the client, right?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, okay. So
can you translate it to the context of this example?
Yeah, so like in the constructor function, you'll create that object, and then after that, you change the
which constructor are you talking about?
Function. The
this one or
the top one? Yeah,
the first one. Okay.
So
what do you want to do?
You construct something with it, and then you change the constructor after you constructed it. We're making sure. Okay, so you construct this over.
Do you want to name it?
Eddie. I don't know. Oh, you already created one though. Overthinking. Okay.
Okay. What do you want to do now?
Now you want to change the constructor. And maybe you can add another bark or something. It's copy pasted.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah. So overthinking would not have it, but prototype would, right? If you change it from the this dot prototype, it will be able to keep it.
Yeah, so if you do var overthinking 2, yeah. Overthinking 2 is not going, it will have bark, but
Yeah, but
overthinking
overthinking
1 doesn't.
And while you do it for prototype, since it references the prototype, it'll have it. The old one will have it too.
Right. So for example, but the way you modify things are different. So if you have, so remember we made complicated dog?
Yeah.
And complicated dog,
Dog dot prototype, dog with prototype dot prototype.
you can see the prototype has the fetch method on it. So if we do dog with prototype dot crap.
Okay, crap, sure.
Now complicated dog will have that crap.
Method.
Right. So you can do complicated dog crap.
Yeah. And one of the other relationships I was kind of hazy about was object.create.
So Eddie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you run?
Yeah.
You asked good
actually,
questions, but why didn't you go through this process yourself?
I did do this, and this is what I saw, and it feels a little bit hazy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it is different. Like this is what I observed to be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to confirm with you, like there is advantage and disadvantage to these two different methods, right?
I mean, I think there's a very simple rule to follow is unique data should be on each individual object.
That's the creation,
right? And things that are not unique, things that are shared, should be on the prototype.
Oh yeah, that wasn't very explicit, but that's a good idea, right? So the constructor will keep the unique ones, and then the shared ones should be on the prototype.
Yes.
Okay, I actually did not catch that when you said there is a communication value in distinguishing those two.
Yeah. Yes. So that's what I was saying. That the reason using prototypes is more clear, results more clear code, is because you explicitly are saying that this stuff on the prototype is shared. Like it's unambiguously true, right? There could be no other way. Whereas if you put everything on this in the constructor and it's actually shared data, people may get the wrong impression and think it's unique when it's not. Right. And then what they might do too is they might overwrite those properties. Right. So for example, if you expect all dogs to have the same bark method, but then you actually put a different bark method on every single dog instance, then people that use your code, like maybe you wrote that code and then a coworker is using it, might overwrite it and then change it in unexpected, unintended ways.
I haven't thought about that, but would the constructor take priority over the prototype because constructor is unique?
It would. So it looks on. So So when it looks for something, when it looks for property, so if you do dog with prototype dot some property, it will look on itself first.
Right.
If it doesn't exist, it'll look on its prototype and on its prototype's prototype all the way until it hits undefined or hits null.
Other thing I observed was object.create does not do constructor, does it? It only does it for object.create blank, like the default one. But if you try to like object.create dog, it won't be a constructor. Dog won't have a prototype at all. Well, it will have a prototype, but it doesn't have dog.prototype. Like when I try to type that.
Object create works very different than
then
the constructor prototype. It just creates an object with a given prototype.
But
Right.
there's no constructor. And you said given prototype, but if I type like dog.prototype on something that was created by it, it doesn't.
I don't understand what you mean. So can we have an example again?
Okay, sure. So just start with the dog object, and then create a dog with object.create from dog with that dog object.
Do you want an Eddie dog?
Sure.
And you want an object.create, and what do you want to pass in?
Dog. Not a constructor though, right? So, okay, you need
dog is a constructor. You mean dog?
A dog that like the dog object that you used in counting 7, which is
so you want to pass in like simple dog,
I guess so.
Right? So simple dog is like,
what did it look like again? Can't remember.
Simple dog looks like,
simple dog.
Okay. So you want to look at, so if you look at Eddie dog, it does have that as its prototype.
I think when I did it, I'm not sure how I was just following your example exactly from part 7, and when I tried prototype, it doesn't. It's undefined.
I think you must have missed a step.
Let me try that again.
So it does exactly what you described. It creates a new object and takes the argument you pass in and sets it as to be its prototype.
Let me quickly test that if that's work. Okay. Okay. So can you type just dog.prototype? Oh, it does have a constructor in this case. What?
All functions have a prototype property, but what
it does.
What varies is whether you want to use it or not. So notice before, in the first example, we didn't create like when we're assigning properties to the prototype of dog with prototype, we didn't create dog dot. We didn't create the dot prototype method. It already exists. It's an object that's always there. And then we just attached new properties to that object.
I just remember when I did it at some point, that prototype just didn't exist. But let me see if I can.
Yeah, so I encourage you to do it again, and I'm pretty sure it will work. It should work. Yeah, so Eddie, I think the other thing to note is that if you have a function, let's say that you have just a nothing function, it doesn't do anything. Okay. I mean, it's still gonna have a prototype. It's just not gonna have any properties on it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. It's
like all functions have a prototype property.
Oh yeah, it does have a prototype, but it's undefined. That's the thing.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay,
so
I'll
when you have proof of what you're describing, show me.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen, if you don't mind. Where was it? Okay, do I have it? My own screen. This is what I'm talking about, like var dog name equals test dog, test dog object to create dog, and it does have a prototype property here per se, but when I say test dog dot prototype, it's a defined. And I want to like save something to the
remember
prototype.
So remember what you have to do. So Eddie, remember what you have to do is you have to do object.get prototype of. So type object capital dot get prototype of test dog. There you go.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, I can't do things to the prototype, right? Because it's undefined.
You
Like
you
if I
you 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 can't
modify it, that's what
modify it directly.
that was
You
what I was hoping to do.
you can only do that with constructor functions.
Yeah, that was the difference I was observing, and
Mhm.
I'm confused by that. But you need constructors, right?
Yeah, if you want to do that, you have to use a constructor function.
Can you attach a constructor or link it afterwards?
No, you should decide how you want to make it
Right
first.
from the start.
I think you're really
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's
conceptually playing around with it, right? It's
yeah.
all the playing around that I'm getting confused by.
Yeah.
Edge cases and yeah, I think
I think what will cement this is when you see more examples of it, right?
yeah,
Because
then I can move on.
you're like making up like really
Abstract.
unusual examples and then wondering like how come it's not so hard to do this?
Yeah.
Like when like no one actually does that.
Okay.
So I think when you see more examples in real life, you'll get a better sense of like how it's used. So for example, the thing we've noticed already is that prototypes are used heavily in a lot of the built-in objects in JavaScript, right? So when you look, so one thing I noted is that when you look at the documentation for arrays, everything's like array.prototype.forEach, array.prototype.map, etc. And the reason that's happening is because all arrays should have the same methods. Like they should share those methods. Whereas the data at index 0 is or like the length, for example, length is going to vary depending on the array. So that should be an instance property and not a prototype property.
Yep.
Right. So when you actually see it in practice, it's usually it tends to be used in pretty simple, uninteresting ways. There are people that do try to like use it in really complicated ways, and I actually really discourage that. I don't think it's really valuable. So for example, you can have really long prototype chains, but I think it tends to make things pretty confusing.
Oh yeah, you don't
It-
cover prototype chaining, did you? Like I went to MDN and it was all over the place, but
I did. I just didn't use that term.
inheritance and chain, right?
It's the same thing, but so I think in our videos we went to
2 layers.
two layers deep, right? So you have like my dog, which is based on dog.prototype, which is based on object.prototype, which is based on null.
It wasn't very
Right.
explicit though. Like it could be very long chains, right?
But you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have very long chains.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Like when you actually look at usage in practice, they tend to be very short. Like for example, arrays. The array chain is you have an array instance inheriting from array.prototype, inheriting from objects, inheriting from null. It's actually very similar to the dog example, right?
Wait, what does it mean to inherit from now exactly?
It just means that, remember that chart?
Yeah, it's on the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's below.
Yeah, I guess prototype organizes things, right? Technically you don't even need prototype, you can just type dot something and then it'll pass it on too. Like
I
just
don't know what you mean.
just regular property, it'll pass on too, instead of prototype dot name versus just name. What's the is that really different? Other than organizing it into prototype?
Test dog, you can't modify prototype directly on your test dog.
Oh no, that would be dog, right? Dog.name versus dog.prototype.name.
You would not put name on the prototype because name is unique to each dog.
Because
R-
yeah.
uh, So again,
Okay,
prototypes are for shared data.
Yeah.
Names are not. Names are not shared data. They should be unique for every single object
right.
of that type. So
Prototype would be casting it.
what?
Oh, because that's the prototype dog, right? The dog object. But
How about this? Eddie, let's look at real cases.
Okay. I feel like I need to actually dive into more real cases before.
Just look at the array case.
Yeah.
Right. Create an array
Oh, right now? Okay.
right now. Var.
Array equals. You want a cap or new array?
No, just doesn't matter. No, no, don't use Just create an array.
And,
All right, find the prototype. So the prototype is, what is it?
It's just array 0. What? I don't know.
So it's array.
Yeah.
So
you call it a 0 or what? What's that?
that's the name of the function, the constructor function. What's the prototype of array?
That is object.
It's object. What's the prototype of objects?
Can you get it here? No, here. Or is it
Use object get prototype of.
Okay.
So you need to go through several layers. So you need to get prototype of. So first you need to get the prototype of your array.
Array.
And then you need to get the prototype of that.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's doable, right? You can change
Yeah.
it.
So no. Think about how to do this. Take some time to think about it.
Like that.
Think about how to do this.
This
Take a minute.
That's the one before it, right?
And then get the prototype of that.
This. Found it now.
Yeah, there you go. Remember in the graphs that I showed you in the video, the bottom is always null.
Yeah.
At the very bottom. So you just like reconstructed the graph. The reason I built out that chart is so you can just very clearly see the
that
relationship. So you don't, because when you look at this, it looks just like a bunch of gibberish. But giving you that chart is to help you conceptualize exactly what you're seeing, all this gibberish you're seeing right now.
You can see its object. The object doesn't allow you to look at its proto, huh? The null one. Yeah. But I feel like, as you said, I need to look at more real examples in order to solidify this as understanding. And although I've been stuck over this for the past few days, I think it's about time to move on and look.
Yeah, I think it should move on. Just know, because in CountingJS 8 and 9, we looked at prototypes for a very specific reason. Just know why we were doing it, like why prototypes were used in that case, and then move on. So I can't remember the reason.
Well, you don't teach it yet. I haven't gone into CountingJS again yet. So.
Okay, so probably the reason I brought it up at that moment in time is that we're about to encounter it in the code. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So just like the reading code stuff, like focus on how it relates to the code base. Don't worry about every single potential thing ever.
You did say there's a lot more other methods outside of this, right? Like you said, the get prototype of, object.create, constructor functions.
I don't think I said that.
Prototype. Well, at the beginning of part 7, you only taught those two ways of approaching it, right?
I think I probably said. I mean, I don't know what I said, but I probably said that this is all you need to know.
Oh yeah, basically something like that.
And
but you said there's more that you can learn along the way. So.
But the reason I don't bring those up is because you probably don't need to know them.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
Eddie, my advice for you is to move on. Keep going.
It's a long one. Long question. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's go on.
So next we have Transit.
Hey, Gordon.
Hey, Transit, do you, as someone that's a little bit further along, do you have any advice for Eddie on prototypes and stuff?
Just what you said. I think he's just overthinking it, to be honest. Yeah, he's just overthinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just confusing himself by making up all these scenarios when it's pretty simple, I think, prototypes at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. not
Yeah.
too sure.
Yeah, I think Eddie, my experience is probably the same as yours too. I think I probably approached it exactly the way you did, and I was like, "What about this? What about that?" Because that's just like kind of a Gordon thing to do. Probably it's the same way like Eddie. I feel like I'm not surprised you have these questions. Like kind of the same way that I approached it. And I think generally with almost every feature of programming, all these questions are going to arise, and there's a certain point where you just have to be like,
enough is enough.
enough is enough. Yeah. Yeah. But because it's so hard to answer that question, I think that the reading code just like the importance of reading code is like underscored 10,000 times, because that is the thing that grounds you in reality and how it's actually used versus the combinations of what you see given, right? Because I think when you learn something for the first time, you see like 3 things with 2 other features, and they're like 6 combinations, and you think about every single combination. And then when in reality, like maybe one of those combinations is used. And the thing that shows you that is when you read code and you find that no one ever uses that like 6th combination that you're thinking about. And so then you can just like not worry about it. I think it can be helpful for going through all the combinations is helpful for understanding the mechanics of how things work. But just because something can mechanically be done doesn't mean that there's like a good reason for doing that. And that's where like the reading code can like get you back on track into like what makes sense versus like what's possible. Yeah, I guess it's a question of what makes sense, what's possible versus what makes sense. There's usually a very small intersection. So I think the problem is people see everything that's possible and assume they're all like plausible, whereas in reality, like they're not. Most of the possible things are like usually ignored and never used, as well as a lot of features. Like there are a lot of features of languages that are just never used, and then after a certain point, people are like, why don't we just delete it? Can we get rid of this feature? Because it's harmful. So you see this come up a lot. Sorry for the tangent.
You don't add, no questions.
So what are you working on?
So I finished the last Beast challenge. But other than that, I've just been doing a bit of my own stuff now. Just been having a bit of fun with my own stuff. Yeah.
Wait, so did I invite you to the book club?
No, I haven't spoken to you yet about that. I just finished it, I think, like 2 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll invite you now.
Dreams are coming true.
Okay, cool. Well, so I guess that'll keep you busy for a while. Did you watch the regular expressions video?
No, I haven't watched that, so I've got to do that as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's about it.
All right. Cool. And any what's been on your mind? Anything?
No, not really. Just
No.
not really. Nothing much. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So Jason, complicated dog 2. Jason, I don't know if you got that joke, but one of the variables was one of the dogs was named Jason, and the variable was complicated dog 2. All right. Well, Jason's not there. Srinath, are you back?
Yeah, hi Gordon.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. So this was the first time I'm here.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm doing practical JavaScript version 9, Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
So stumbled upon one thing. I mean, I haven't stuck there, but yeah, I had a doubt regarding that.
Okay.
So while adding, I mean, while we are adding a name or something, so when I'm deleting the particular one, so should I mention the name of the array, right?
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, just a second.
Okay. Yeah, it's really hard for me to imagine code like through spoken.
Yeah.
I still have to see it. What? That's weird. Oh, yeah, that's unexpected. Okay, so I'm gonna check and see if there are any other questions from YouTube live stream. Is the stream live? Yes, this is live. Game controller, Marco. I don't know what that means. Simple is a relative term, though. Yes, it is. Will there be a Watching Code meetup ever? There has been one before. So I guess, yeah, one has happened already, but I don't think they're going to happen with regularity. At least not like official Watching Code organized meetups. But if you find students that you want to hang out with that live in the Bay Area and are Watching Code students, that I think is doable. It's happened before as well. Okay, let me check the Facebook, see if there are any questions there. And Srinath can just call in again, and even after we stop the broadcast, he'll be on for a little bit, so we'll still be able to answer his question. Any questions on Facebook? Nope, don't think so. Oh, David, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, David. Well, I think I'm so used to seeing your profile image, I just like didn't notice. So, oh no, because you like jumped out and jumped back in. Yeah, you've been in and out. Sorry.
No. I decided to pose my question. So
Pose it.
Beast challenges. Gotta love them. Let me share my screen. Okay, I guess you see yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm using two screens, so I'm not sure if I got the right one.
I see. Go back.
Go back?
Oh wait, never mind. Yeah, I see your code. Yep.
See my code. Oh, okay, that's the wrong screen.
I see your editor. My library system JS.
All right, let me bring this over.
I see myself now.
Okay, yeah, because I have it in. Oh wait, I got it over here.
Dang, got a lot of Chrome extensions.
Don't judge me. All right. Wait, one of these ones. Okay, couple of questions. Yes, Gordon. All right, let me paste this. Okay.
Related question to Eddie's question.
Yeah, it is. Beast challenge. This prototype of. So I'm looking at the challenge, and also I read through the documentation,
and
The documentation for.
is prototype of.
Oh, okay. Object dot is prototype of.
Yes.
Great.
Object
Oh, wait,
dot.
so yeah, so well, let me summarize this for Eddie. Eddie, you're there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the task here is to, the object is prototype of method that you used.
Yeah. Is that right?
So yeah, the task is to write that one yourself. That
Yeah,
so it's
okay,
kind of
like,
interesting.
break it down, right?
It forces you to know how it works. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No, that's
Continue-
no problem.
continue,
Yeah,
David.
Eddie and I kind of spoke earlier today.
Oh, really? Okay.
But
Okay.
I blew him off and told him to bring his questions to office hours. All right. So what I came up with so far is, instead of using the native object that is prototype of, I did a comparison to line. Well, we don't have line numbers here, but if object dot get prototype of equals prototype to return true, and that's working.
Oh, sorry. Wait. So Eddie, I was wrong. It's not get prototype of. It's is prototype of, which is different. I
I-
totally misread.
You did tell them to get prototype of.
Yeah, my bad.
Okay.
Sorry. Continue, David.
All right,
Sorry
so
for interrupting again.
No problem. So here are all of the test cases from what you gave us. And so one thing that I was unclear of is, if I run my function, it's prototype of, and I compare dog with my dog.
Is that go back to the question? I honestly don't remember
Okay.
what the order of things is. It wait, go down. Is so yours is prototype of dog, comma my dog.
Right. So
Okay, it returns
this is
true.
out.
Yep.
Right.
So the first thing is the prototype, and then the second argument is the object you're interested in.
Right.
Okay.
All right. But when I go up the chain and I do K9, I get undefined.
Does mine? What does mine do?
Yours works, of course.
Okay. No, well, but wait, just go back, because I just don't really remember this. So K9, oh true, okay. All right. You can go back.
Okay.
So it's K9 and then dog and then dog instances. Right. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So like I said, I read through the doc on MDN. I'm sorry, MSN.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of stuck. And so I read through some of the comments that were on the submissions, and people were talking about using recursion. A comment, and I forget her name, Susan. She was talking about doing it without recursion, and you suggested a while loop.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm at a loss for right now is, what would I be looping through or running recursion through? Because that's not obvious to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So remember, recursion is very useful when you have a problem that gets progressively smaller. So remember, we had a case where we were unwrapping array layers, and with each recursive call, we unwrapped one layer.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, what you're looking at is it's something similar, where if you recurse on each call, you're getting closer to null, like at the bottom of the prototype chain, right? Like that's the end. It's like, so imagine you have a prototype chain that's like 3 layers deep. So
Right.
you have dog at the top, and then which inherits from canine, which inherits from animal,
Okay.
which inherits from, let's say, null. What you want to do is like think of each prototype layer as an array layer.
Okay.
Right? Like remember in the arrays, like you want to get to the center,
Right.
and then you
To-
stop. Yeah.
to-
So you want to think about the base cases. If you get to null and you don't match anything, then it means you should return false. If on the way to null you match, like you see, so for example, go down on your console, scroll down a little bit.
I'm at the
Write this out just as a comment in your console. Type. So at the very, let's do the bottom. Yeah. So go back up. So do like null. Type null.
and for the comment.
Yeah, just type null,
Mhm.
and then do like a greater than sign. And then above this would be animal, and then greater than sign canine, and then dog, and then what's your dog's name?
Colt.
Colt. All right. So what you want to do is you want to look at, so just think of each of these, each section of this chain is an array layer, and null is the middle, right? So if you go, in the case of canine, you should return true because canine is something you will see on the way to null, right? So you know that Colt inherits from canine. So what you want to think about is, as I go to the left in this diagram, will I hit canine? If I do, then just return true. If I go all the way until I hit null and I don't, then return false.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And-
yeah. It at it as it being sequential, or like an array as you described it. So thinking about it that way, then using recursion or a while loop or something, while
Mhm.
true, whatever, then
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I
But
think
is it-
I think in this case, like, I've found that most students, I mean, this is a generalization, but I find that most students think that the recursive method is easier to write.
Mhm.
The while loop is, it's not hard, but you have to think about it in a way that's different than normal.
Okay.
But once you see that, it's very simple to write too.
Okay.
But
So
but for example, the unwrapping arrays analogy kind of works perfectly.
okay.
There's like,
So I'll go back and even though I looked at it, I think twice today, I look at what is the one map recursion or recursion mapping or something like that, recursive mapping.
yeah, recursively mapping. I think the simpler examples are going to be more instructive.
Oh, really?
Like, that example is like a little bit overcomplicated for this case.
Okay.
Like unwrapping arrays is really good. Like, I think the other way I phrased it is like, this is a question of unknown depth, right?
Right.
Like, because if your prototype chain is 100 links long, then it's an unknown depth problem, right? You have to hit along the way to null. Do you see the thing? Do you see a match?
Okay.
If you do, then return true. If you don't, then you hit null and you stop and you return false, right?
Yeah.
So that logic is very similar to array unwrapping.
Yeah, it was unclear to me as to why the get prototype of wouldn't go up the chain, but
It does once,
right,
right? But only once.
right.
Where
I don't think the
where
document.
you need it to go up any number of times.
Right. Okay.
So you have
Okay.
you have an unknown depth problem.
Yes. Now I do.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Cool.
much.
Good question. It's always nice to see like these different things come together. I'm curious, Transit.
Yep.
How did you think about this problem?
This one, I started off, I went down the wrong path. I didn't use get prototype of, I used object keys, I think, or something first. And then eventually when I looked at the answers and I saw there was get prototype of, then I used recursion. I found recursion the easiest way.
Did you try doing it with a while loop?
No, I did not.
Do you want a challenge? All right. Okay, so this is a challenge. You can choose the way you want to do it. You can do it on the air, or you can do it off the air.
Off the air, please.
Off the air. All right. I'll ask you off the air. Okay. Well, with that, I'm gonna ask Transit that question off the air. So if you want to see how he does, then call in. And then if not, then I'll see you all next week. So that's it. Thanks for joining, and hope to see you next week with any questions you might have.
All right.